Ruben Amorim has his work cut out as Manchester United manager because they were absolutely awful in the second half against Newcastle. As they left a lot to be desired, there's no defensive cohesion, and it doesn't even seem like they do understand what he wants from them. Guys, please do subscribe to the channel. We upload tactical content only. Champions League, La Liga, Premier League, any league in the world, we upload it weekly. So please, if you want to see that, do subscribe. When United looked to play out from the back, you saw that it was the two wingers of Newcastle that would come in narrow in order to press on the ball, where Isaac and Joe Linton would actually focus on keeping the double pivot, whoever it may be, whether it's Ugarte and Lindelof or Eriksen and Lindelof, they would cover them. Where Murphy would actually come from an angle to force the goalkeeper either to come to this side where Barnes would be on him, or many a times he would go long as the double pivot were covered as well. Here we see that as Lenny Yoro is starting the build-up phase, you see Murphy pressing from an angle, cutting out that passing lane, where Isaac and Joe Linton is keeping tabs on United's double pivot. And because Barnes is so close to Mazraoui, the option to him is out, and therefore the goalkeeper, Bayendia, has to go long in the situation right over here. In the situation where the ball would be played out to Mazraoui from the build-up phase, you would obviously see Barnes coming onto Mazraoui to actually press him. And as United would move over, you would see Joe Linton and Isaac especially also moving over. But Isaac did something in particular where he would stay close to the option back to the goalkeeper, and therefore Mazraoui also had to go long, as Livramento wasn't shy to come out and press Dalot as well. Here we see that Mazraoui, as he receives the ball, immediately is under pressure by Barnes. And you can also see that Isaac was keeping close tabs, making it very difficult for the ball to be passed back to the keeper. From here onward, we started seeing the Man United keeper go long much more often than not. But Garnacho did something, and this might be Ruben Amorim tasking him to do it, is to drop into this space here and receive the ball directly from the keeper. Many a times we see that Tonali would follow him in the situation, and because Livramento is on Dalot, he would lay the ball off, and then Zazi and Bruno Fernandes would be 2-on-2 in the situation. But Newcastle actually dealt with the situation very, very good. This pass to Garnacho made a lot of sense because, I'm sorry, the Man United centre-backs does not have the balls or the gore to be able to play out from the back. Therefore, you would see that the pass to Dalot was actually open for him as he was drawing one of the centre-backs or Tonali into that space. As Livramento is high up the pitch, that actually creates a nice 2-on-2 situation for Manchester United at the back, which could be a problem, but United didn't take advantage of this proposition and situation at all. As Man United would progress up the pitch, you saw that Lindelof started playing in his position where they had a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 situation, and Newcastle actually tried to match that up by having their front three press high. They had to play the ball a lot into Dalot and rely on them going around players to get the ball up the pitch. They also played the ball directly into Garnacho or Bruno Fernandes or Zirkzee, and they relied a lot on that, because the press from Newcastle was very effective, as they had these immediate options, as they had all of them covered. And Joe Linton and Livramento had to cover the right hand side, Man United's right hand side, and Trippier had to cover the other space as well. Like here we can see that when United came out, Lindelof went back to his position, and Newcastle actually tried to match that up with their front three pressing. And you can also see Joe Linton and Tonali, or whoever one of the midfielders, would actually press onto the double pivot. You can see here Dalot actually breaking away from the pressure, and that's how Man United most of the time got up the pitch. Otherwise, they would simply just kick the ball straight into Garnacho. They would do it the long way, right? And it's frustrating for Ruben Amorim because his players doesn't have the talent. The same with Højlund when he came out. They don't have the talent to press and to withstand the press and actually play the ball out from the back. However, guys, I want us to focus here on the second half, because this is where 3 goals were scored and Ruben Amorim and Manchester United actually got hammered. So let's see in the second half what Newcastle did differently. Ruben Amorim wanted his team to put on pressure, especially in the build-up phase. Therefore, his pivot had to come on to Tonali and Joe Linton. But that actually left Bruno Guimaraes free. And what it did was he had Mazraoui follow Bruno Guimaraes wherever he would go onto the ball. And that actually would have Dalot tucking in defending Harvey Barnes. But that just left out the flank for Livramento to go into these areas. No wonder you saw that the first goal came from this. Here we can see that Darlow is in the back line with Mazraoui, kind of like in the midfield. And I would like to know the explanation from Ruben Amorim and why he did this, because why not just have your midfielders come back? And now you have the situation where Darlow has to run back to the wing in order to cover this. And you can see there the wingers are also tucking in, drawing players away. I honestly don't think that Manchester United understands what Ruben Amorim wants to do, because they defended in a 5-2-3 situation where the front three here would actually press, but they were disastrously outnumbered within the midfield, especially with the movement that you add. You would have the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, Isaac dropping into these spaces, and especially the fact that Murphy would run into these areas, drawing them extremely narrow. Then you would see Kieran Trippier coming in these areas. So the lines from the back line and where the front line were pressing were way too far apart from each other. So that's why I'm saying there was no defensive cohesion, and especially with the front three, they were viciously outnumbered within the midfield. Look at where the furthest player for Manchester United is in comparison where the back line is. That is bigger than the box, the 18-yard area. So that is more than 20 yards away. How can you possibly defend like this? And look at if you add the movement from Isaac and these guys making runs in behind. They're not even keeping tags. They're not even looking at the winger who's making that run out wide over there. It is quite hilarious for me that I just said that Manchester United have had no defensive cohesion, while at the same time Eddie Howe was displaying how your team can be well drilled, because in the Barnes goal you saw that Barnes came on to Mazraoui and he pressed him in such a way that he was cutting the passing lane, and Mazraoui had to scramble back because Bruno Guimaraes was covering Ugarte, and I think it was Mason Mount that was covered by Tonali in this situation right here, and Darlow, just for extra protection, was also covered by Livramento. So that is how you press as a team. And it's funny that United didn't do this, but Newcastle were actually scoring goals because they were so defensively sound. And so they had a lot of cohesion, right? Then Barnes took the ball and he scored, I think was the third goal. So that is just great tactics from Eddie Howe and showing Ruben Amorim how it's done. Harvey Barnes comes on to Mazraoui and he presses him in such a way that the angle towards Darlow is dead, and the two options is closed down by Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton as well, where you see Livramento is coming on to Dalot. So it was great pressure. And if you look back in history, all the great teams, if you look at Barcelona, if you look at Liverpool, those teams are all good at pressing. And I think that's the biggest thing that Ruben Amorim has to work on at Manchester United if they want to do anything or get anything or get better. And we have seen Newcastle exposed in the second half that they don't have defensive cohesion, and that's the biggest problem that Ruben Amorim has to deal with. Guys, if you want to see more tactical content, please do subscribe. I upload everything: Champions League, La Liga, Premier League, everything. I will see you in the next one.